This weekend is unique in that I realize that there are a lot of people that this weekend is a sad weekend. For the moms who have lost children or a child and children who have lost a mom, I understand that can come to be a very sad weekend. So I'm going to stand on God's word and I am going to declare that God will give you the kind of peace that surpasses all understanding. And so this is going to be the best day ever for you. And for those women who are struggling in hell right now with infertility, because it is like going through hell, I pray that by next Mother's Day 2020, that God blesses you with the blessing of life. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for all that you've done for us this day and all days. And we especially reach out to you today to bless all the mothers and grandmothers and that are here today that have been so critical and so vital in our upbringing and saving us with their prayers. And Lord, I just pray that you open the hearts and minds of everyone that's here today and that we glorify you in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. So how'd you guys like that video? Best day ever. Who's ready for one? Anybody here? Yeah. Isn't it so funny, the perspective of a kid versus a parent? You know, the normal day, I call it, maybe more like a nightmare day versus what the little girl said, best day ever. I think about when my daughter Taylor was 7 or 8 years old. And it was a normal day for me. I left home, went to work, crossed the river, came back home, fixed dinner, and we changed and headed back over to St. Louis to the Fox to see the Beauty and the Beast. And we got up to the ticket counter, and the only thing that was missing were our tickets. So I called home, and my wonderful husband drove them over, but we're a 45-minute drive away. So at the Fox, between the outer doors and the inner doors, they play the music of whatever the musical is that's going on. So they were playing music from the Beauty and the Beast. Remember, Tay? And we danced as we waited for my husband to come with the tickets. And that was a nightmare for me, what happened after trying to get all that done. You know how we do, moms try to fit 20 pounds into a 5-pound bag every single day. But to her, it was magical. And I bet if you were to ask her what are the top 5 best memories with your mom, I bet that would be one of them that she lists. And when I was a little older than that, going into junior high school, so kids, there used to not be such a thing as a middle school. There was an elementary school, and then there was junior high and high school. But when you left elementary school, you were leaving babyland. You're done. You're going into junior high. So it was a big deal. Well, I grew up in a house with 4 kids. My parents eloped. My mom was 15, and she had 4 kids by the time she was just shy of 21. There's a lot going on in that house, the entire childhood. But I remember my mom in her normal life of being a mom and her normal season of it's time to get kids ready for school again and go clothes shopping. She took the afternoon off and just she and I went shopping because she knew that was a big deal. That was magical for me because we spent a lot of family time together. Literally, my mom worked full-time plus. Then she came home every night and cooked. Yeah, she puts me to shame, but cooked every night. Most of the time in her uniform, too. She wouldn't even change before she started cooking. And so there just wasn't a lot of one-on-one time because I could not get rid of my siblings. They everywhere I looked, there they were. But that day was magical. It was normal for her. Maybe it was more of a nightmare. Anybody take teenage girls shopping for clothes? I rest my case. But normal for her. And then when I was 7 or 8, I remember spending the night with my grandmother. Now, my mother was an only child. And since she had babies when she was a baby, my grandmother was like an extended mother. So we spent a lot of time with my grandma as well, who lived in the house right in front of us. Same lot, really. And so I remember, again, it always had to be all of my siblings, or at least all the girls, and there were 3 girls. But that night, I got to spend the night alone with my grandma, which we called Gram. And I remember her normal night was watching the news, then watching Johnny Carson. You guys, some of you young kids don't know who Johnny Carson is because now it's Jimmy Fallon. But it's the Tonight Show, so it was Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, then Jimmy Fallon. So I remember staying up what seemed to be like in the middle of the night. And it was only 10:30 when that came on, but it seemed so late. But I remember I had a TV tray set up with food on it and a soda, watching my grandma roll her hair with Dippity-Doo. Anybody remember Dippity-Doo? It was the hair mousse of the 60s. And just laughing, watching Johnny Carstens. I remember looking at her going, I love you so much. You laugh. You're such a fun grandma. But what was a normal night for her was magical for me. And speaking of grandparents, I am a blessed grandmother. My son has blessed me with 2 wonderful granddaughters. And my daughter has blessed me with 2 puppies. Now, one of them has never been a puppy since she was in our family. My sister gave her, she has 2 golden doodles. And the oldest one was given to her for college graduation, and it was already full grown. But she's been part of the family. But Taylor had to have a baby puppy. She needed a baby golden doodle. And against my husband and I were like, really? Really? Do you guys work full time? Who's going to take care of it? Well, you'll help me, won't you, Mom? And I thought help her in the sense of when she needs to go out of town or an occasional weekend. 10:15 every day, my alarm goes off, Tuesday through Friday if I'm in town, because I need to go let that puppy go potty. Yeah, so I'm raising that puppy too, which is awesome. So his name is Tux. He's a little black golden doodle. So last Sunday, I'm literally driving home from church, and I call her. I'm like, how's it going? Oh, I'm just tired. I'm like, really? So I'm like, how's Tux? Because, I take care of it now, so I think about it more often. And she said, it's exhausting. I'm like, oh, really? And she said, I just can't get into a routine. It's like one night he sleeps all night, and the next night he wants to get up and go out all this. I'm like, oh, really? Sounding familiar? And I'm like, well, just think about having a baby. It's going to be a lot harder then. She goes, no, it won't. I'm like, oh, honey, it's a good thing you're cute. That's all I can say. I said, Taylor, you can't kennel a puppy. I kennel a baby. And when you go to work, and she said, I know. I can take him to grandma's. Bam. Bam, bam, bam. So a lot of us blame our mothers for things. I hear people say, I'm just like my mother. Oh my God, I'm starting to be just like my mother. But most of us blame our mothers for our drug problems, right? She drug us to church. She drug us to school. She drug us to the doctor's office to get our vaccines so we stayed well. She drug us to the dentist so our teeth didn't rot from all the candy grandma let us eat, right? I remember growing up as a Catholic, and my mom drug us to church, all 4 of us, every week. When we got to be teenagers, we got to go to Saturday night mass. Until the time the guy had a heart attack in church, and when we got home, she already knew about it and said, how did it go down? We're like, how did what go down? She's like, Mr. La La La, they had a heart attack. We're like, what? And that's when she knew we didn't go to church. We just ran in and picked up the bulletin. And we're like, yeah, here it is. Yeah, we were there. Wow, it was good today. But anyway, one Sunday, she let me take a friend with me to church. And in the Catholic Church, you have to go up and get communion. So you all need to stop whining. We bring it to you here. But no, you have to walk up and get it from them. So I thought, I want my friend to have this experience. In the Catholic Church, you have to go through a process to make your first communion. She hadn't gone through that process. Well, Miss Glow was in the audience, and my mother has eyes not only in the back of her head, but the side of her head, the top of her head. She has senses that are like inhuman. Like she can smell, hear, see things. It's like, how? How on earth? Like when we're in her house, we go 3 rooms away, and we're like, and she's like, what are you guys talking about in there? She can hear. So anyway, she saw me bring my friend up to communion, and we were kind of giggling, and oh boy, yeah, you don't do that if you're glorious kids. So that day, I was 12 or 13. She literally drug me up the stairs by my hair because I resisted arrest. So I was like, no, it's not. I was like, get up here. So I don't know why she had to take me upstairs to spank me. It's like, I guess she needed that added, punishment of pulling me up by my hair. Recently, my sisters, we were all together, and they still remember it. They'll say, remember that time Mom dragged you up the stair by your hair? I'm like, yeah, people would not believe that know my mom today that that's the kind of treatment that we had in our household. Okay, so I don't know if you all know the whole reason that we celebrate Mother's Day. It actually started 111 years ago. A woman by the name of Anna Jarvis was celebrating her mother's life at a memorial, and her mother's favorite flower was the carnation. So everyone that attended that memorial was given a carnation. And that took off so quickly that all people in that region started doing the same thing, giving out flowers, until the president of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, declared it a national holiday in this country to recognize our moms. Is that awesome? There's another story of one person doing something so generous like that took off like fire. It's so great to hear those kind of stories instead of the opposite. So here are some acronyms for mom. Mom, must obey me, maker of miracles, master of multitasking, multitasking, overworked magician, maid of money, mind reader of munchkins, and maid. So you're like, wait a minute, maid. That's not M-O-M. How many of you have told your kids, I am not your maid? Yes. I have two words for you. Yeah, right. Because maid actually stands for mother, actually in disguise. So a couple of mother acronyms: amazing, loving, strong, happy, selfless, graceful. Sound like a mom? Yep. Amazing, loving, teacher, helper, healer, clever, friend. You know, in 2 Kings, there's a story about a kid who goes out to work in the fields with his dad. And as soon as he gets out there, he's like, my head, my head. He has this excruciating head pain. And the dad looked at the servant and said, take him to his mother. So it's happened, you know, for all time. We've been the one that takes care of things. And in the spirit of kings, how many of you love the Lion King? Yeah, I do too. For any of you, was the first time you ever heard the term circle of life in that movie? That was the first time I ever remember hearing that term. Okay, I'm going to read you the lyrics to the song, and that's how the song starts, and I was completely on tune. Okay. From the day we arrive on the planet and blinking step into the sun, there's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Far too often to take in here. There's far too much to take in here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun rolling high through the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless round. It's the circle of life, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and love, till we find our place, our path unwinding in the circle of life. Aren't those beautiful lyrics? I wish I could sing them. Toby, can you come up here and sing them? You got that cool accent too. I mean, it'd be like perfect. Perfect. But the thing is, only recently did the real concept of circle of life slap me right upside the head. This is really more like the circle of life, only missing the last stage. For some are the best days of their life because they're going to live in eternity with Jesus, but I left it off of there to not be a downer today. No pun intended. Okay, how many of you see a young woman in this picture? Can you see this picture? Yeah, some of you. How many see an old woman? Anyone see an old woman too? Well, this actually is called the young woman, old woman, also known as my wife and my mother-in-law. How rude. But it's from an anonymous, no one knows who initially drew it. But this cartoonist, several years later, did a reproduction, and this is what people often remember seeing. Now do you see the young woman with a feather coming out, her black hat and her hair going back, or maybe that's part of something. But do you see the old woman? It's the chin. The chin of the young woman is the nose of the old woman. The black necklace is the smile or the lips of the older woman. You see it now? Isn't that interesting how we can look at one thing and see a couple things? Now, that was intentional. A wise old man I once heard say, if you're beautiful at 16, it's luck. But if you're not beautiful at 60, you have no one to blame but yourself. So aging is very interesting, and the things that it does with your body are even more interesting, right? So I love this from Audrey Hepburn, and this is something that she wrote that was actually said at her funeral. I'm going to read it to you. For attractive lips speak words of kindness. For lovely eyes, seek out the good in people. For a slim figure, share your food with the hungry. For beautiful hair, let a child run their fingers through it once a day. For poise, walk with the knowledge that you never walk alone. People, even more than things, have to be restored, renewed, revived, reclaimed, and redeemed. Never throw out anyone. And as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and one for helping others. Isn't that beautiful? What is about God's perspective on mothers? You know, if you're an Old Testament, if you tend to lean towards the Old Testament, good to go. Because the 10 Commandments right there, number 5 says, honor your father and mother. And if you're a New Testament, you seem to navigate over there, know that in Ephesians, we're reminded that if you honor your father and mother, things will go well for you. I wish I would have learned that earlier in life. And you will live a long life on the earth. Pretty cool, huh? So I want to talk about 9 ways that we can honor our mothers and grandmothers and all the other mothers that we talked about today, especially today. Even more so. Let's just say today we're going to do 9 on steroids, and tomorrow you can just go back to the 9. How's that? But the interesting part that a lot of us say, I don't have the patience, I don't have the fill in the blank, I don't have the joy, I don't have to help and honor my mother like I should. I just have one thing to say to you. Yes, you do. Because God gives us the fruit of the Spirit, and those coincidentally are 9 things too. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Through such thing, there is no law. He doesn't even end it there. There's no law. So you're not going to run out of patience. You're not going to run out of joy. You decide to do that if you feel that you've run out. And there's lots of scriptures about asking and you will receive. So when you feel like you've run empty in those areas, all you have to do is pause and say, God, I'm asking you to release that patience that I know are inside me. So the number 1 is to love her unconditionally. That's how we can honor our mothers. Now, this side of heaven, there are few, if not just 1 or 2, who can say that they've loved you unconditionally in human form. And one of those are your mother. So why, with her modeling it for us, do we have such a hard time loving unconditionally? Working in the healthcare industry, I've seen loss and children who die, and the mothers are there to say, take me, don't take them. They would lay down their life literally. How many of us daughters and sons, would we really do that? I mean, we're thinking, they're getting kind of old. I mean, it's time. It's almost time. No, we wouldn't as much. Now, back in February, on one of our snow days when we had to move church online, we did the whole weekend on love languages. So if you don't know what your mom's love language is, there are only 5. So it's not hard because you can learn yours and hers, because the love language is how we feel love, how we receive love. So if you think your mom's love is giving gifts because that's what yours is, that's how you feel loved when someone gives you a gift, you may be completely wrong. Hers may be quality time. You saw Stacey Roy's son with the hat in that cute video where he said he and his mom share the same love language, quality time. So he knows how to show his mother love at such a young age. I wish I would have known that. My mom's is acts of service. So I know when I do things for her, she feels so loved and adored. My love language is the same. So it works out well. Love affectionately is the second way that we can honor our mothers. Now, affection means touching. Now, you've all heard or seen the bumper sticker, have you hugged your kid today? I think there needs to be one, have you hugged your mom today? Moms taught you how to hug, how to kiss, how to butterfly kiss, how to Eskimo kiss, right? It was mom. So mom loves to be touched by her children. Maybe she's not a touchy woman as a general rule, but we still love the touch of our children, of our own children. And so there's this really cool story, but before I tell the story, I want to warn you. Touching and tapping your mother on the head are two different things. You tap a puppy on the head. You do not tap mom, all right? She's not your dog. All right, so there's a story of this guy who went home with his coworker to have dinner with him and his wife. And the guy walked in and watched his friend hug his wife and then compliment her on how beautiful she looked. And then they sat down for dinner and he talked about how awesome the dinner was. And after dinner, the friend and him walked outside and the friend said, wow, do you always act like that to your wife? You know, thinking maybe it was a show for him. He's like, always. He goes, why? He said, because one, I love her. And two, I want to have a happy marriage. So the guy left and he went home, and as soon as he walked in the door, he hugged his wife, told her how much he loved her and how beautiful she was. She burst right into tears. He's like, whoa, what's up? She's like, it's been a horrible day. Tommy skipped school. The refrigerator stopped working and I didn't know it and the food spoiled. And then you came home drunk. So just know that your mom will think you're drunk if you haven't been real touchy-feely before and you start touching her, because we all know, we've all been around somebody who's had too much to drink and they like pet you and it's like, get off of me. Please get off of me. So that is typically a sign that it doesn't have to be for you. All right, love respectfully. That's another way that we can honor our moms. And when I say respectfully, I mean with our words, with our tone, with our body language. Any eye rollers in the crowd when you're like, oh, yeah. Oh, right up front even. Please stand. Please stand and say hello to the crowd. Meet the eye roller. Okay. Or throwing up our hands, Ma, come on, what? If you're not Italian, that didn't go right, raising your hands up. I always know when my son calls me mother, that's not a term of endearment. He'll say mom or whatever. He'll even call me Tammy. But when it's mother, I know he's like up to here. Taylor, not so much. She calls me mommy, but she'll say mom when she's fed up, when she wants to tell me to dial it back. We had someone in our family that was going through a rough time a couple years ago, and I was pretty relentless. I'm like, put your big girl panties on. Let's go. You can do this. It's not that big of a deal. You got this. We're here with you. And I remember Taylor saying, Mom, dial it back. I was like, oh, yeah, I thought I was being a tough girl, but I guess not. So Proverbs says, 15 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but hard words stir up anger. And then on to 15:4, it says, gentle words bring life and health. Imagine that. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. My mom always said this, if you can't say something nice. Do you guys know my mom? That's right. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Just suck it up, buttercup. Just zip it. Zippa your lippa. Okay, love compassionately. What's compassion mean? means feeling their pain, understanding what they're going through. You know, the old actress Betty Davis said, "Getting old ain't for sissies." Anybody can relate to that? I can. I'm in my 50s, and man, sometimes just getting up out of the seat, I'm like, There's something about in a restaurant chair too. I guess they're hard on my bum, and I stand up, I'm like, okay, I gotta get my body realigned. And so recently, as of last weekend, we were helping my parents purge or do spring cleaning, I guess is the politically correct way to say it. Clean out closets that literally are this big, and things just kept coming out. We're like, that's still coming out of that closet? It's like, yeah, that's why she didn't use it. That's why she used the doors and the dresser. So we cleaned it out. We literally took 3 truckloads to the Goodwill, or my dad did. So we were taking out a load, and I was watching my dad come back, and he was kind of pausing, and I said, "Dad, you need something?" And without skipping a beat, he said, "My youth back." So as we age, kids, we know it. We know what's happening. We feel it. And just think, as the next generation and the next that are still here, they're really feeling it. Even when you had a physically easier life, age just takes a toll on you. That's why Betty Davis said, "Getting old ain't for sissies," right? So we were going through all my mom's clothes, and my mom shattered her femur recently because she's 75 and still thinks she's 25 and was down at spring training in Florida, fell, shattered her femur. Been down for the count for 8 weeks. It was awful. We had to fly her home commercial. It's a story. It's a sermon all in itself on what not to do when somebody's hurting. So anyway, she would sit in the chair, and we bought these racks at Walmart where you could hang on clothes on a roller, almost like a clothing store. We would roll them in. She sat on the recliner. We'd like, keep or throw, keep or throw. Well, we didn't throw anything away. We gave it away to the Goodwill. So everything was like, keep. We're like, "Mom, we can't keep everything, and there's no room to put this back." So, but everything had sentimental value to her. Well, I'm like, this sweatshirt has stains on it. That's typically all I have to say to my mom. She is a laundry Nazi. If I'm like, it has a stain, like, get rid of it. Because she will have worked her butt off to try to get the stain out. You ever need a stain out? Give it to me. I'll give it to my mom. I bet you $20 she'll get it out. So anyway, finally, I'm like, "Mom, there I am. Mom, we've got to move some of this stuff." But everything had sentimental value, like something she wore to one of our graduations or one of our kids' birthday parties, or it was made by one of the grandkids. She doesn't want to get rid of it. I'm like, then we need to buy a bigger house, or we need a warehouse to put all the stuff. And so it got funny where it would say, "We'll pitch it when you die." Okay, she's keeping it. We'll pitch it when you die. So we kind of have a little stack of, here's when she gets called home. This stuff is just like going the next day, like on the way to the funeral home. Let's stop by Mom's, get rid of that stuff. I'm just teasing. But for some of you, compassion is you get the call to help your mom with her computer. Oh, those are some fun calls. Or her cell phone. Right? Here, let me just say news or a suggestion to kids. Don't buy your parents' electronics because you are the forever help desk. Forever and ever. It's like, "Mom, that needs to be thrown away." Like there are 16 other versions of Dell since that one. But what you can do if you want to buy something is buy them a gift card and let them go over to the Apple store. Then that cute little Apple guy can be her help desk, right? All right, so many of you know who Ben Carson is, right? Dr. Ben Carson. So great story about him. When he was growing up, his mother had he and his brother write book reports for her every couple weeks. Now, in order to write a book report, interesting story, Tommy Tiller, is I wrote this message before I got your Dear Mom letter. Wait till you hear this, it's awesome. So every couple weeks, they complied, read a book, because you have to read a book to write a book report, or at least you have to skim it enough so you don't fake out your mom that you didn't read that book. I have no idea where you got this. This is Dr. Seuss. This isn't Jim Covey or Stephen Covey. So anyway, so he would do it, but not until junior high did he discover that his mom could not read. So they were turning in these pristine book reports because she never said anything, so they must have been perfect. So they wanted to keep their track record going, right? Because not saying anything means good job. But he found out that she was illiterate. But that did not stop her. That did not stop her from raising two very intelligent sons, from being tough love and making it happen, even though I bet they whined every 2 weeks, right? Anybody have whiners? Listen, my firstborn, he was the biggest whiner on the planet until he got to be about 10, and then he started growing out of it because he could see how manly he was getting. But let me read to you Dr. Ben Carstens' bio. Born in Detroit, Michigan, and a graduate of Yale University and the University of Michigan Medical School, Carstens has authored numerous books on his medical career and political stances. He was the director of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Maryland from 1984 until he retired in 2013, 19 years. As the pioneer of neurosurgery, that's the top of the pecking order in medicine, guys. Carstens' achievements include performing the only successful separation of conjoined twins joined at the back of the head, performing the first completely successful separation of type 2 vertical craniopagus, that's like top of the heads, developing new methods to treat brainstem tumors, and reviving techniques for controlling seizures. He became the youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the country at age 33. He received more than 60 honorary doctorate degrees, dozens of national merit citations, and has written over 100 neurosurgical publications. In 2008, he was bestowed the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States. Carstens' widely publicized speech at the 2013 National Prayer Breakfast catapulted him to conservative fame for his views on social and political issues. In 2005, he announced he was running for the Republican nomination in the 2016 presidential election at the rally in his hometown of Detroit. In March of 2016, following the Super Tuesday primary, he suspended his campaign and announced he would be the new national chairman of My Faith Votes, a group that encourages Christians to exercise their civic duty to vote. He then endorsed the candidacy of Donald Trump. On May 2nd, 2017, Carstens was confirmed by the United States Senate as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. An illiterate mother, she stepped up. She did not let any of her handicap in any way handicap her kids. That's what moms do. You know, the famous Napoleon, who was the leader of France, he said, "Let France have great mothers, and France will have great sons." It's a mom thing. It is a mom thing. Dads too, but you know, it's Mom's Day, okay? So we're going to give them all the credit today. Love to listen to your mother patiently. Do you know how many times she listened to the same story over and over and over that you told? And how she acted like it was the first time she had ever heard that story in her life. Tell me more. What else? What did she say? What did he say? But us, mom starts telling a story, and if your mom's like mine, we have to go to the moon, to Mars, to the sun, go around the sun, come back down, and then we get back to the end of the story. When it could have taken like one sentence or one word, yes. So, but she listened to our stories to the moon and back. So why do we find that we're too good or too busy to honor her by listening to her patiently? You know, I have friends who have lost their moms, and they say, if I could just hear her voice. But yet we act like, you know, oh, we saw on caller ID, it's mom. Should I? No, yeah. Oh, darn, it went to voicemail. Right? If your mom is driving you crazy with her stories, just mute it. Just let her talk. That's cool. I'll get on my mom sometimes like, you going to let me respond to any of that? Or am I, No, just listen to her. James says everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to be angry. That used to be my go-to passage, honestly, because I had thought I had no patience, but I have an abundance of it. And so instead, I just went right to getting mad or impatient. So by a show of hands, how many of you agree that when you love something, you do it good? You do it well, right? And when you love to do something, it's like time, and you can think of all kinds of reasons why you need to do that and not all the other things, right? You with me? Well, how can we show our moms that same kind of love? For one thing, to help her, to joyfully help her, and not act like we're too busy to help her. Like, give me a break. Listen to this, you guys this is a great story. Last night, I'm giving the same message about loving your mom, loving to help your mom joyfully. And a guy by the name of Ryan Harden comes out after. You guys know Ryan? Pastor Ryan? He's like, yeah, happy Mother's Day. My mom called Dan. I helped her move a couch, and I said, happy Mother's Day. This is your Mother's Day present. I'm like, Ryan, I just gave a message about joyfully helping your mother. You were happy? She was happy? I helped her. I helped my mother, and I said, this is your Mother's Day present. I'm just teasing you. So, moms, what's it worth? If you were paid a salary for the mom role that you play, it's so fascinating how rich you would be. Think of the purses and the shoes and all that other good stuff you could buy. So researchers at the University of Michigan determined that women with 3 kids do an average of 28 hours of household work a week. That's nearly a full-time job. And men with 3 kids do an average of 10 hours. Same house, 10, 20. Is there something off there? Okay. And so this year's salary.com, if you go to the mom salary wizard, it estimates an average at-home mom's average salary equates to $119,000 a year, up to, I think, almost $172,000. And a working mother, because she's not at home as much, she should make $70,000 for her mommy duties. So look at your kids and say, you owe me, baby. Okay, in all seriousness, we have the best model ever. On the cross, Jesus told John, take care of my mom. Woman, that's your son. On the cross, he's dying a criminal's death in agony and pain, but yet he remembers his mom. That's unconditional love. Love to include her. Oftentimes when we just call and invite mom, she won't even be able to go, but man, do you get credit for the invitation. And what grandchild doesn't love looking up from the soccer field, the volleyball, whatever sport or recital, and look to see grandma sitting there. Those will be memories that you will not be able to duplicate. Include your mother. They love to be included and invited to the party. Love to need your mother. We want to be needed. No matter how old or young we are, a mother wants to be needed. Call your mom for a recipe. Moms love that. Listen, she'll give you that recipe, but you will never make it as good as she makes it. Because she doesn't follow a recipe. It's written down, but she's like, yeah, that's some of that, and some of that. And oh, yeah, I forgot that's not written down. That's something else they throw in, right? I'm hearing the giggles. It's so true. Moms gave you the best years of their life. You needed her, and she was there for you every single grueling time, day, night, whatever it took. It's interesting, I heard him saying this week that says, when you're old enough to answer questions, no one asks. It's so sad in this country. In other countries, you're so revered as a senior because of your wisdom. It's like, why do we like put them out to pasture just like your time about to come, so I need to pay attention to what's going on in my family? No, we cannot do that. And I say that funny, but it's true. It's so true. Listen, growing up, my mom was large and in charge. I grew up in a family of 4. My parents eloped. My mom was 15. She had 4 kids by the time she was 21. It's crazy. It's crazy time in the house. And so she worked full time, and she didn't need much because, she was large and in charge of taking care of things. She epitomizes that commercial or song that she brings home the bacon and fries it up in a pan, even that gross stuff. And she never let my dad forget he was a man. That's Ryan's like, that's right, that's my kind of woman. I know that's gross. But things have changed. The circle of life has happened. And now my mother needs a little mothering of her own. And I need to do that with love, with kindness, and without judgment. Like, geez, you can't do this, Mom? You taught me how to do it. It's like, no, she can't anymore. That's true. And I want to tell you that the enemy loves to whisper in Mom's ears, you're irrelevant. You're too old for that. They don't want you involved. That's how he can get them down in a hurry. First of all, moms, don't listen to that crap. That is the enemy. That is lies from Satan. Your kids love you. They've just gotten busy in their life trying to be the parent that you raised them to be. They're not ignoring you. They don't want to. But sometimes we need a reminder to do better, be better for our moms. So moms aren't perfect, but there is one thing that we never want to fail, and that's getting the hand of Jesus into the hands of our children. And nothing would honor a mother more than to know that her children are going to go to heaven someday. That's right. I speak the truth. I speak the truth. And moms, what you can always do and never stop doing is praying for your children. And a lot of people think that nothing's happening, so they stop. I guarantee you this, if you are praying, something is happening. There is this story, true story, of the luckiest man, I believe, on the planet. And his name is Peter Ridgely. And in, I think, 1820, he got on a ship from Britain to Australia. And the ship sank. And he survived. And a second ship came along and picked him up. That ship sank too. He survived. A third ship came along, picked him up. You're not going to believe it. That ship sank too. And a fourth and a fifth. He went through 5 shipwrecks. He survived 5 shipwrecks. So he finally gets picked up by this ship called the City of Leeds. And they're in the same lane going from Britain to Australia. And after they get him in and the doctor checks him out, he's like, dude, well, probably didn't say dude back there, probably said, mate, you've got the favor of God on you. Right? I would have said, you, how many ships have gone down? You shark bait, son. You're not getting on this boat. But no, got on. They recognized that it had to have been a God thing. So they had a woman on that ship who was dying, had a high fever, was super sick. And the doctor asked Peter Ridgely for a favor. He's like, this woman has been like a mother to us. Maybe that's where mothership comes from. Yeah, I think so. And so he said, she's so sick and she's about to die and she's delirious. And all I hear her mumbling when she is somewhat conscious is, Lord, don't let me die before I see my son. Lord, don't let me die before I see my son. Her son had run away 15 years before that, joined the service, and she was committed that she was not going to die without getting back to Australia to see him. So the doctor said, would you just do me a favor? She knows all of us. Would you just go in and pretend like you're her son so she can die in peace? And Peter Ridgely was like, of course I will. I mean, you just rescued me. So he goes in and he's kind of pauses at the door and the doctor gives him a little nudge as he's looking at this little lady laying there with this long silver hair. And Peter Ridgely starts sobbing because when he looked down, he saw Sarah richly, his mother. You think her prayers weren't working? Now you know the secret to why he survived 5. It's documented true story. Now you know why he survived. So moms, prayers work. Never stop. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm where I am today because of my mom and my grandmother's prayers. No doubt in my mind. And also where I am not. Because I could have gone down a very dirty, dark path. Girl liked to partay. But because of my mother, prayer works. So let me ask you this. In the Bible, it says in Luke, Jesus says that there is more joy in heaven when one sinner repents. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the mothers and grandmothers that if they heard your name in heaven, that celebration would go on overdrive? I can tell you what, that would mean more to me than anything, for certain, to hear my child's name called. And did you know that Jesus says, I'm not going to come unless I'm invited? And people think it's so hard. Invite him to what? So am I going to be weird now because I invited Jesus? It's like, no, you're not going to be weird at all. You're going to be born again. Your life is about to be like crazy awesome because God has such a huge plan for you, but he can't do it unless you invite him to do it. So if you feel so inclined to make today the day that you invite Jesus, will you all pray with me? Say a prayer. So you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to stand up. You can if you want to. But with every head bowed and every eye shut, will you say this prayer with me? Father, I thank you for your unconditional love. You truly perfected and modeled the way in sending your son, Jesus Christ, to die a criminal's death in my place. While he had no sin, he took all of my sins to hell in my place. Thank you for saving me from the unimaginable. Please forgive me for my sins. I do not want to miss out on the plans you have for my life. I ask that you come into my heart and make me a new person, the person you created me to be. Please bring the right people into my life to support me, to love me, and to walk with me. And Lord, I thank you most of all that you will never leave my side. In Jesus' name, amen. If you prayed that prayer, there is a big celebration in heaven. Congratulations.